Well, joining me now for a closer look at women and finances, Miranda Morell. Lovely to see you.
Yes.
So there was a survey done relatively recently. What did it tell us about women and finance?
Basically, it sort of casts the light on women's ability to manage money, and it said, well, we're excellent managers on the domestic level. We're not so good about long-term and medium-term strategic thinking of our money, so we're excellent budgeters. We manage a tight household budget, but we don't think beyond that.
Why don't we?
Well, I think that's multifactorial. I think women are busy. There's more women working and mothering, so they're combined. They might just be maxed out at the end of the day, don't have you know, the mental resources to look after it. But I think money is tight also, so people might not feel like they've got enough money to sort of bank and save and invest. And I think on top of that, there's a bit of insecurity lingering underneath.
So how do we manage any insecurities that there might be? What are some strategies that women could put in place?
Well, this is a good question. So I've talked to a fund manager who happens to be female, and she's got some good insights into the female psyche and what makes women actually much better financial managers than they might expect. Women are, generally speaking, very risk averse.
Yeah.
So we're not gambling. I mean, that's what would make us proficient investors, is that we're calculating, we're controlling, we want to know what we're doing. So it's applying those skills, establishing some confidence, and also building up some practical tools. So one of the things she suggested is building up a sufficient emergency fund. So you're not feeling like investing your money or saving it is going to be such a big threat to your household
that you've got a little nest egg.
Yeah. So you can take a bit of panic off by getting up a sufficient, you know, $5,000 to $10,000. Then at that level, you won't think that, you know, you're losing control over your money. You've got a little security net, and then you can kind of proceed forward and build your confidence and invest.
Because is it normally the case in a household where there's two people in the household, two adults, that one will look after the finances and one just doesn't have anything to do with it? Or is it normally a joint thing?
You know what, I look at my own circumstances.
Yeah.
My grandmother's even managed the money. My sister, my mother, I talk to everybody in the office. I work with all the blokes.
It's a girl thing.
Pretty much all of them said the women. So,
wow.
you know, we're not scared to do that. We're comfortable with it. It might be a control thing.
Yeah,
but it's
that's your day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's taking it to the next level, and also kind of, and nobody likes to think about the worst case scenario. But should, you know, one of you die prematurely, or you separate, or something affects those dual incomes, what are you going to do then?
Yeah, you need to plan for that, right?
And that's what a lot of women fail to factor into their finances. They're doing such a great job of managing, looking after the household and the kids. They manage all the money for the kids.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, what if?
Do you think it's that we don't actually have an idea of how much we're going to need? Because in that survey it said something, 45% of women compared to 38% of men don't actually have a clue as to how much they will need for their retirement.
No, and they haven't given any thought to what age they'd like to retire.
And it's almost just a too big a figure to even contemplate.
It is pretty huge. I mean, I've done the maths myself and put my little numbers in the calculator, and you get various numbers depending on the inputs. But the number that spits out at you is pretty daunting. I think I need to save something like $400,000 between now and retirement. I'm thinking, how am I going to do that? I'd pray for the lottery. But, you know, it's not as extreme as all that. Sometimes you just need to look at what you have, your existing assets, not get so caught up in the fear factor. Because I think that it's that intimidation and the fear and the worry that actually holds women back from actually tackling it and getting into the nitty and gritty and thinking, actually, there is a lot to work with here. It's structuring it and managing it and approaching it in a practical fashion.
So we talk about putting that little nest egg aside, but we've got to spend to keep the economy going. And I mean, you go to the shopping malls and they're totally geared towards spending. We want your money. This is slashed.
Women too.
And women as well. So I mean, how do you find your balance?
Well, I think you just have to be really self-aware of what you are spending, and that's sort of the basics of budgeting anyhow. It's combing through all those financial statements from month to month to find out where the money is going, and just, you know, thinking twice about your needs and your wants. Do you really need a new skirt this month? Probably not.
Always need a new skirt, always.
But maybe just, you know, scaling it back a bit, setting that money aside, putting it into savings. And, you know, it's kind of like dieting, right? If you approach it like it's going to be some extreme sacrifice, you're just going to binge, right? But if you're sensible about it, you put a little bit aside every month.
Little and often.
That's right.
Or just in moderation.
That's right. Yeah. And it's not so, you know, it's not such a big, daunting.
Sure. And I guess kids can always throw curveballs as well in terms of, you know, as they're growing up, there's certain needs and...
There's no end of spending. The car breaks down, you know, you need to go to somebody's wedding or whatever. But again, if you have an emergency fund and you're planning for those events, then the savings aspect isn't quite so daunting.
Yeah. Okay. Fabulous. Thank you so much. It's a big topic, isn't it? But I think it's something that we need to, as women, we need to get our heads around a bit more.
Think long term.
Yeah. Instead of just for today.
Yeah.
Think for tomorrow and beyond. Thank you, Amanda.